And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Carnegie from Xavier Jorge, who has done some games that I love, like Carson City, some games I'm not as big a fan of, like Trois, but it's definitely games that have hit the zeitgeist. People definitely know him as a designer. And this one here is about being an industrialist and blah, 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 blah. None of that really matters. You have a factory. You're running this factory, and you got workers working in different offices in your factory, and you're maneuvering those workers around that you may score the most points. This is a bit of an engine building game because you're adding rooms to your factory, getting more workers if possible, maneuvering those workers around to make them work the best, sending them out to different cities in America so that they can bring you back some delicious, delicious income, along with increasing your rate of transportation. I said a bunch of thematic words there, and there is some theme to this game, but it is, like many of these Euro games, kind of a point salad of sorts. You're going to get points from various ways. Let me show you a little bit about how it works. So I'm not going to go over every rule of this game in detail, but I just want to give you an idea of how it works. Each player is going to have their own little player board. It has these sliders that go into the board, and you can pick either side of the slider. There's some minor differences to them. So the A's and B's, you can do it randomly. You can pick them. It doesn't really matter. It's not like the A side is more difficult than the B. As these sliders come out, you're going to be placing discs on them. You want to get those discs off of them, if at all possible, because that's going to provide you with income. It might give you points. It might give you wooden cubes, these crates of goods. It's one of the resources of the game. And it might give you money. So getting these out also allows you to place these discs on the map, which I'll show you in a bit. Everyone's going to start with a small little working area here, and that's made up of different rooms. All these rooms are one of 4 different types, and when one of those types is activated, you're able to activate all the rooms of that type. And as the game goes by, you'll be able to add more rooms. And so for each person that's in it, and some rooms, this room, for example, has spots for 3, but this room has only spots for 1. When you have a person in that room, they're going to be able to do it. Sometimes there's a cost to doing the different actions. There's a lot of different actions, but you're going to have to maneuver people around. You have a bunch of people that will start in your lobby, but one of the actions, like for example this one, which actually has a built-in guy already, but let's say I take this action. For each person I have here, I can move these people 3 spaces. So I go 1, 2, 3, maybe like that. And then if I want to put him in that position, I need to pay some money. Another resource in the game, so I'll pay $3 and put him here. So in the future, when that action goes off, I can use them. Now sometimes they will be an action like this action here, which says place your guy on the board, and you're going to take 6 money or 2 cubes. But I got to take the person who does the action and place them out in a city on the board. Now I'll be able to bring them back in the future. They'll come to the lobby, and I have to move them back into these different spots. Next to the board is going to be a whole board of different buildings, and some of these buildings will not be in various games based on a number of players, but these are buildings that you're going to be able to buy, and you want to do that because if you completely fill up rows, you can see end game victory points that you will get, but also the more that you have out there, the more options that you have to do different things with. Some of them are going to be, like I said, some of them are going to help you move people around or even get more people into your building. Sometimes they give you a special ability. Sometimes they give you resources. I already showed you this one here. We'll either give you $3 and 1 cube or send one of these people onto the board to get $6 and 2 cubes. And some of them are going to allow you to take these discs off and send them out in the cities on the board. Some of them are going to allow you to get like technology points, which will allow you to get new buildings to upgrade on the board and to slide these dials out farther and farther, because the farther you slide them out, the better the benefits are on them. So this is kind of the core of the game. You're working with this, and you're going to pick, everyone starts with the same things, but where you send your workers at the beginning of the game, how you maneuver them around is going to affect everything else. This here is going to manage the turns of the game. At the beginning of the game, you're going to randomly place 4 strips in here, and what's going to happen is when it's your turn, to go, you're going to take this cog token and pick the action that you want. So when you put this out, you are either going to kind of be doing an income phase, which is cool, or you're going to be able to take your workers off of different spots on the board and get points and different resources based on where they are. But whatever row you place this in, that is the action and the buildings that everyone's going to be activating. And so when you're finished, you'll take this off and this will move one over. But even when it's all the way over, you can still activate that special ability, again, those rooms, but then another one of these is going to move over and the region of the country that's going to be affected is going to be mentioned. So the regions are fairly evenly split, and this one you'll see there's 3 south, 3 east, 3 west, and 3 midwest, but it's not always going to be that way. It's possible, like if this one had been turned over this way, there would be 4 east, 3 south, 3 west, and only 2 midwest. But I've messed with the combos a lot, and I think it's almost impossible to have only one of these. And besides, there's also one mentioned here on the end of each of these tracks. When all these are moved over, that's going to trigger the end of the game. So then there's the board. Now the board is going to be important because a lot of victory points can be gotten from the board. If you connect these major cities, San Francisco, New Orleans, Chicago, and New York, the more of them that you connect, you'll get bonus points at the end of the game. Also depending on what kind of level your transportation is in each of those regions. So transportation in the region is important because if you have people who are in those, you'll be sending people out to the different regions from some of the actions on your board. When you pull them back for income, they're going to get wherever your disc is here on the board. So for example, if I'm at horse and carriage, I'm going to get 1. That stagecoach, I'll get 2. Then once I get the locomotive, I'm at $5, $7, 2 victory points. And also the first person to move there is going to get 3 cubes. So the farther over you move, the better your benefits are going to be in those different areas. And you'll notice there's different spots here. These are discs that you're placing on the board when you remove them from the different kind of those levers that you're pulling out. And having these on the board will give you points at the end of the game, and also, like I said, maybe some connection points. At the top of the board are just victory points. There are different spots that will give you these, and you'll just pick one of these. Like this one, for example, gives you 3 victory points for every train level you have at the end of the game. Although these are, for the most part, capped at 12 maximum points. Although there are a few ways to do more than that. That's pretty much the whole game. It looks a lot more complicated than it is, but it's really about maneuvering around in here thanks to actions picked from this main board. The big board is more of a side thing. This is kind of where scoring happens. And at the end of the game, there is a decent amount of scoring that happens from the connections and from the different buildings you built. And there's some end game, these end game victories conditions here are going to matter. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Okay, so this is a beautiful game. I think it's fantastic. Realize I have the deluxe version of the game, but I've also played with the non-deluxe. The main differences from the deluxe and the non-deluxe is you have screen printed meeples. The boards are slightly nicer, but these slidings in and out, those are in both versions of the game. The main difference here is these nice trays. These game trays are really nice that hold all your stuff, hold all your meeples, hold all your discs, has room for your starting money, has room for this token, which I didn't mention, but this token's if you don't like the action picked once per game, you can flip it to take a different action, but you lose 3 points in the process. That's not in every game. It's only in a 4-player game, and the player who goes last in a 3-player game also gets it. But I like how this looks. Now, the money in this one's a little silly, ridiculous. It has this foil embossed. I don't know if that was necessary. I mean, it's nice, but I would have been okay if it had just been normal green. Not many people walk around with foil money, and then the cubes are, well, they're cubes. But I think the rules are a little dense to go through. When I first went through the rule book, I was a little like, whoa, especially because setup seems so long and complicated. The thing is, I don't think this game is particularly complex. When I taught it the second time, I was able to much more easily just say, oh, I know how to play the game. But going through it at first took a bit to grok. The other big thing about the deluxe version is the fact that it comes with this tray, which makes it really easy to set up the sideboard of buildings. I like that a lot. And there's extra buildings that you can put in for modules and things, but just grabbing this and setting it up sure makes life a lot easier. Either way, I'm happy with the production. I think it works really well, and everyone's going to like sliding these dials in and out for sure. All right, that's the game. It is pretty straightforward, even though it doesn't feel like it. I think when many people play this for the first time, they're going to go, what am I doing? But it's interesting because you can make some pretty fun choices. A lot of it has to do with that top level of the board with the victory point conditions. If I pick a victory point condition that says, for example, that I get 4 points for every bridge token I get on the board, which is one of them, then I want to get bridge tokens on the board. And I want to maybe move that dial across anyway, that slider, because at the end of it, it might score me victory points every time income happens, which is fantastic. There's just different strategies you can pick. When you pick rooms, do you pick a whole bunch of rooms from one type, and then when it's your turn, definitely activate that type, hope other people activate that type so that you can do a whole lot of things? Or do you kind of build an even spread? Using those technology points, what do you do with them? Do you move up on the technology in the board, or do you slide your sliders out? And you know, I tell you what, it lets you make fun decisions. I was a little worried because there's 20 turns in the game, and I was a little worried that there would be constriction because you're only going to do each action 5 times. And it is possible that someone will pick an action and you're like, now is not when I wanted to do that particular action. And that's good. It's all part of the game. And that little token with the 3 victory points in a 4-player game, I've never not used it because I can't. Sometimes I'm like, nah, I want to produce this turn, or I want to do whatever else it might be. The thing about this game I feel that's somewhat unique is the idea of sending out the workers and then they return home for income. Doing that is the best way to get income. Yes, you have some offices in your building that can produce income, but sending them out and bringing them back is a great way to do it. But it is a process. You have to get them out. You have to put them in a quadrant that you think will be sent back in the future. You can look and say, oh, well, there's 3 easts coming up, so sending them out to the east will bring them back. Although I don't get a lot of income from the east. Maybe I should change that. The only thing I'm not thrilled about with the functions and mechanisms of the game, I thought the whole connecting cities and at the end of the game building chains across it, that feels a little tired. I've seen so much of that in all train games and things like that, connecting these big cities across the board. It is a good amount of points, so you don't necessarily want to ignore it. I just felt like, meh. But moving the workers around and activating the buildings, that's where this game felt fresh. That's what felt different. And then not only are they in your building, they're going sent out to different spots in America and coming back. And that kind of flow and movement gives this game a very fluid feel to it. So even though there only is 20 actions, you're trying to figure out the best way to get points from various things. And I like it. I also like that every game you can buy different rooms. Or maybe not. Maybe someone else bought the room you wanted. Or possibly that room's not even available in your game. Now the game, the thing I have is a few modules. The one module that I like, which incidentally is very similar to a game from the same designer's game, Carson City, is one that lets you pick your starting workers, your starting cubes, your starting money, your starting moves, because at the beginning of the game you have a few moves you can move around and set things up. But you're auctioning for first place, and you're doing all that secretly on a piece of paper, deciding what to go and where to go and how much stuff to get, and you have like a budget to do that. Now, of course, that only works if you kind of know what you're doing with the game. And even I would be a little hesitant on that now, because I would think, oh, maybe I should just start with what the game normally says, because I'm not sure. I might take fewer workers and then regret that, or spend too much money and then regret that. I bought too many cubes. But I still like that option's in there, and that's a module that once you know the game, I think I can definitely recommend that one. Beautiful production. I don't know. I think the game itself looks nice on the shelf, although I'm not a huge fan of this number 27 because I don't have all 27 Quinted games. But Quinted games, their quality's all over the place. Sometimes they make amazing games. Sometimes their games aren't as good. But this is definitely one of the better ones. This is a game that people are talking about right now for good reason. There's really solid things going on here. The game does not outstay its welcome, and no matter what happens, everyone's involved all the time. There's interaction because you're buying the buildings I want. want, or going to different spots on the board I want, or deliberately not picking an action because it will help me out more than it helps you. All that works together to make this a very fun game, worth checking out. That's Carnegie. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved.